You remember we talked earlier in the discussion about John Hall and his famous breech loader and the machine methods that he was using to produce those breech loaders. John Hall, unknown to many people, had a sort of an adopted son named Christian Sharps. And one of the weapons that became famous in the Civil War, created by Mr. Sharps, is a breech loader. I'm sure he got some ideas from John Hall, and also with the idea of machining. We're going to move now into some of the pieces that you would see in the county in use. This is a Model 59 Sharps carbine. This is the piece that John Brown brought and some of his men when they came to attack the armory in 1859. It also used a percussion system, as we said, a breech loader, so that a paper cartridge could be loaded in from the rear. It has a cutting knife, so that when you close it, it cuts it and exposes the powder, so that when it fires, you have instant ignition. These particular pieces would be highly valued by cavalry. Confederate cavalry would try to capture them. Certainly Union cavalry would like them in the early war. The pattern was such a good one that it was copied by the Confederate government in a form called the Robinson Sharps. Looked a lot like this, but didn't have some of the features. Particularly didn't have a pellet mechanism. So we're going to shift a little bit here into some other pieces that come into play. As we said in the early war, in 1860, many pieces were being brought over here from Europe. Many pieces were brought out of storage and placed into the hands of Federal troops and Confederate troops. I'm holding a Tower rifle musket in my hands. This is a converted piece, an English make. James Burton actually ended up going to England when he had taught the Enfield system how to make the interchangeable parts. Some of their guns were patterned that way and then copied, and so that Robbins and Lawrence firm in Vermont actually started to make English Enfield patterns. So the Enfield pattern, or the British pattern musket, would be seen quite a bit marching around the ranks in the county. Again, think of it in terms of American technology and ingenuity into an English arm. But in 1861, with a shortage of firearms and militia units being what they were, this is what some people may have showed up with in the beginning. This is a double-barreled English-made shotgun. It's a double 10 gauge, probably carried by cavalrymen. It's interesting when you go to early battlefields, and you look at some of their collection pieces, particularly the balls and things picked up from the field, you'll find shotgun slugs and lots of buck and ball, and that's because these were in use. Actually, to tell you the truth, the shotgun really never went away, and you could actually take a 69 caliber cartridge and easily dump it down that hole and load it and fire it 3 to 4 times per minute. So again, the rate of fire and speed is important, but so then again also is the manufacture. And something else I want to discuss. I'm holding in my hand 2 other pieces that are revolutionary. These are Sam Colt's inventions. Sam Colt invented the revolving pistol that we would be seeing a lot of in the Civil War. These are different copies. This is a Model 51 cut down or shortened. It's 36 caliber. The idea is that it has 6 chambers. They hold 6 different charges or 6 balls. As you cock it, the cylinder rotates, and each one of these cylinders has a nipple on it, so you have 6 shots instead of 1. And it's handy. Can be placed in a holster, can be placed inside your coat if you need to. Also, these came to be in vogue with the civilian population. People like the idea of a revolver, something they could carry with them in wartime. This is a Model 49 piece, also a small and handy one. I picked these two in particular because our county has a reputation of supplying some of the best cavalry in the Civil War. Some of our best mounted troopers came from the area, and in particular some of the men in Mosby's command were very, very interested in Colts. I picked these two particular Colts because, as you see, they're both short-barreled. They can both be put inside a vest or in a smaller holster, drawn when you need them very quickly. And later in the war, when the whole idea and the romance of the cavalry went away and it became a matter of getting in and getting close to capture the enemy, people like Mosby, for instance, would tell his men, I want you to dispense with the saber, and I would rather you to have more revolvers, more short pieces, so that you go in quickly, you attack the enemy quickly, and you have more firepower available to you than they do. That was part of the reason why he was successful in the many raids that he made, was that they were well armed with a variety of these and on their person. So the revolver sort of comes to life and in its own time, and you would certainly see a lot of these around the county and in subsequent actions in 1863, 64, even up to the end of the war. So what we've done here is we've discussed small arms. We've discussed small arms that were made in the county, developed here, the systems that made them. We've talked about the appendages that came along with them. What I did not do was give you a reference of the size of ammunition. I did want to do that. So what I did was I assembled a little board, and I'm going to hold up some of these Burton bullets compared to a modern 30 caliber round. This is a 30 caliber round. This is a 59 caliber bullet. You see the difference, obviously. Now this is a 69 caliber Burton bullet compared to the 30 caliber round. What's going on here is that these are designed not just to wound, but the size and the amount of lead in these projectiles invented and used were designed to destroy an appendage, such as an arm, a leg, or if they hit any part of the body, to cause a mortal wound. There are stories of soldiers in the Civil War being hit with round balls or with other big balls and actually living through it, surviving it. There's a famous story about an officer who was hit and he actually was holding his entrails and then carefully washed them off with a canteen and very carefully put them back in and held them in place until they could get to the hospital. No one expected him to live, but he did. Sort of a miracle. But the point is that when you get that much lead traveling and then hitting you in an arm or in a leg, and if it breaks a bone, the casualty rate on the battlefields is so enormous, the surgeons simply don't have time to do what we would today call reconstructive surgery. No, it's a matter of economy and thrift in the military, so it's removing the appendage, removing the arm, or removing the leg. Effectively, the soldier put out of action. And that was the idea behind the size and the bigness of the ammunition at the period of time. So things have changed, obviously, this day and age, to that one. And the casualty rates would be so high, ironically, because of the things that were invented and experimented with in Harper's Ferry and also used throughout the war. And as the war progressed, more and more methods of loading and firing weapons would continue to increase. There would be breech loading weapons. We haven't discussed any of the metallic cartridges. We won't get into that discussion here. There are literally hundreds of styles of Burton bullets and mini balls, which we couldn't possibly cover, but I did want to show you the basic. So remember, when you think of our county in its heritage, with the Civil War, its rich heritage with the Civil War, as far as small arms is concerned. That in this county, we had a hand in the armory system starting. We had a hand in bringing the best of the best gun makers together in one place, and those folks hand-making firearms. Our other heritage is that we brought in innovation. First place in the country to do that. And we machine-made pieces. Those very, very talented craftsmen would be replaced by the machine, replaced by all things made with interchangeable parts. And we became so efficient at it that in 1855 we created the perfect rifled musket. And that would be copied many times over in different places. And our ideas that had come out of this county had gone on to give birth to new ideas time and again. New forms of innovation, new types of breech loading. That's just a small portion of our history in Jefferson County.